Whiskey drinkers, what's up? Non-whiskey drinkers, hello. Sometimes kinda sorta whiskey likers, hey. Right now, I want to talk to you about rye. For some people, bourbon and rye can be interchangeable, but for me, they serve different purposes. Now, when I buy a rye, I generally like to go with something that's real grain forward. Before we get into, my list of my top 4 ryes, I want to talk about what rye is. So rye whiskey, when you're in the United States, has to be made of at least 51% rye. And that's rye, the same stuff that they're making rye bread out of. The rest of it can be malted barley, it can be corn, but as long as you have that 51% or more rye component, you can call your whiskey a rye. There's a couple other rules, but we don't really need to get into everything right now. When I say that I like grain-forward ryes, what do I mean? What I mean is that I don't want a rye whiskey that the barrel is overpowering the natural flavor profile of the rye in the mash bill. As a matter of fact, a lot of the ryes that I really like are 100% rye. The first of the 4 ryes that I want to talk about is Heaven Hill Grain to Glass. Now, Heaven Hill is, a powerhouse distillery, but their Grain to Glass series is a little bit newer than most of the stuff people are familiar with from them. Their current release of the Grain to Glass rye is 63% rye, 24% corn, and 13% malted barley. So this is pretty heavy on the rye spice, but it's not over the top. Aroma-wise, it does lead with pepper and spice, and there is some caramel sweetness to back that up. Heaven Hill Grain to Glass is classic Kentucky rye, but if you want to turn the spice up, I would head north to Canada. The first time that I bought Alberta Premium Cast Strength Rye, I spent $70 or $80 on the one bottle. Back then, we weren't importing a lot. At least, there wasn't a lot coming into New York. So, scarcity was a thing. Shortly after though, our distributor bought in on it, and we in turn bought in on it. And now, we have it on the shelf for like $30. When I paid $80, I was more than happy to pay that price for such awesome cast strength rye. But now that the price has dropped so low, and I have tasted it since then, it is an incredible value. This is 100% rye, so no corn, no barley, nothing adulterating that rye spice. This is just about as grain forward as you can get when it comes to rye whiskey. Flavor profile wise, you're talking pepper, dill, mint, and it's dry. There's not much sweetness to it. So if you really want to experience rye whiskey, Alberta Premium Cast Strength is a great option. A whiskey that's 100% rye doesn't always taste like that though. One of the ryes that I think flies under the radar is River Revolution Rye. These guys are up in Vermont. The way that they make their 100% rye whiskey unique is by using toasted and chocolate malted rye. Now, what does that all mean? Malted rye, essentially what you're doing is you're letting the rye germinate before you move on in the process. And toasted is pretty much exactly how it sounds. You toast the grain before you go into fermentation. What this does is it transforms that rye spice into more of like a mocha, earthy kind of flavor profile. A fun story about River Revolution Rye, when we first brought it in, I enjoyed it when we had tasted it with our distributor. So I went ahead and brought a bottle home. I made myself a Manhattan using Koki Vermouth and Peychaud's bitters, and I was shocked when I put my nose to the glass and it literally smelled like I was holding a cup of fresh coffee. That's how freaking powerful this 100% rye from Mad River up in Vermont is. Now, a discussion about rye wouldn't be complete without the modern day masters of the rye revival, WhistlePig. If you're looking to try an entry-level 100% rye, WhistlePig PiggyBack, which is a 6-year rye, is incredible and has a really good value for your money. This is a bottle that shows the rye spice without being overwhelming or over the top. It does spend 6 years in barrel, which does kind of tamper that rye spice. You still have the rye at the front. You got that cinnamon, citrus zest, and leathery, earthy quality to it. But there is a little bit more oak influence that brings a little bit more of a sweet character out of the whiskey. And if you've already had that, or you already know that you like rye, and you have some pretty deep pockets, right now we do have WhistlePig Boss Hog 11, which is a super limited release, comes in an awesome package, and goes for quite a bit of money. Now, this stuff's too rich for my blood, so I can't really tell you how it tastes, but I would bet my money on it that it's good, if I had enough to bet. There's plenty of other options out there for ryes. Bullet makes a good rye that's, I think, 95% rye, pretty grain forward, and honestly, there's more than I even care to mention right now. But those 4 are my favorites and top picks when it comes to grain forward ryes. So if you like or want to try some real grain forward rye-y rye, then go ahead and pick one of those bottles up. I'll have a link down in the description. Go ahead and click on that and you'll see all 4. And then you can click around and explore some more if you want to see what other ryes we have available. Comment down below, tell me what your favorite rye is, or what your favorite whiskey is if you're not a rye guy or gal. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for me this week, and I'll see you next week. Adios.